grab your baker's hats and your fig leaf aprons. We're talking about
Mormon Marriage
and temple and coffee.
Whatever the hell we want.
Stephanie cannot do coffee.
Sorry,
This is
Mom.
like the third time she's had it or something. I called you and I was like, or it was Marco Polo, and I was like, I can't do coffee because you're supposed to sip it, and I've never been taught to sip anything. We just chug everything, chug pop, chug milk, chug water. We don't know how to sip and enjoy as Mormons.
No. I don't know if you guys know, but Kendra is a wildly famous wedding photographer.
Not really.
Really. She's so humble. Anyway, but that is actually how we kind of met. Because I was getting into photography, you were getting into photography, and we went to this conference, and that's where we met up. Yeah, and the whole time you were like, I know you from somewhere.
I know, I kept being like, I know you, and you're like, oh, I get that all the time. And anyways, it took me, like, we were friends before I realized, like, I got down to her basement, and she had this big thing of, like, pictures, and so I realized, I was like, hey, I took those pictures.
And I was like, no, you didn't. That explained why you recognized my face, but I didn't recognize you, because I saw her for like
an hour,
but she went home and looked at my face for hours editing.
Yeah, because it was like one of my first sessions, so I like didn't know how to do anything, so it takes a while. So I looked at her for a really long time.
Yeah. Because we were both wedding photographers, we've been to an array of weddings.
Yes.
There's lots of stories within the temple, out of the temple, Mormon, not Mormon, lots of differences. So let's just jump in.
So are we going to start with like what a typical Mormon wedding looks like? Which for a photographer, typical morning, like I love doing Mormon weddings. So easy because we're not allowed
in the ceremony.
Yeah. There is no ceremony. I would argue that there is no ceremony when it comes to Mormon Temple weddings, because there's the sealing, but it's not like the ceremony.
It's not personalized at all when you get married in the temple. Well, actually, there is a section right before you get married that's supposed to be personal, where an old guy that you've never met in your life gives you marriage advice.
I don't remember. I just remember our sealer kept going on and on and on and on. But
yeah,
what was your experience like?
I remember. I only remember one thing, and it wasn't even that significant. But yeah, like it doesn't feel personal because you don't even know the person that's marrying you. I think like outside of Mormonism, you choose the person that marries you,
and so you can get like a family member or someone close to you or a minister. Someone who like has experience doing weddings and stuff. And
you have a lot more say, like what you want them to say, how you want the whole ceremony to go. And then like a lot of people choose to personalize it between them and like share vows. That's definitely not part of a temple wedding or a Mormon church wedding.
No. Well, in fact, so there's the sealing where you like kneel. How much detail can we get in? I'm like full on apostate.
Wait, here we go. Warning. We're going to talk about inside the temple.
And weird hand signals.
So if you don't like it... Oh, no, don't show it yet. I'll blur that out. If you're offended about talk about the temple, like, click away as fast as you can. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so you kneel across each other over an altar, which I think... is weird.
Yeah, like a sacrificial altar.
Yeah.
But no, that's weird.
It's a weird, like, altar. Okay, whatever. So you kneel across and you hold each other in the patriarchal grip, which is a lovely name for when you are...
Yeah, not patriarchal. It's your marriage is set up just with the grip to be ran by a man.
Yep. So this is the special secret grip.
Oh gosh.
Let's see if I remember.
I almost didn't do it right. Pinkies intertwined, fingers on the wrist.
I feel so close to you right now.
Oh my God, it's like we're getting married.
Okay, so you're across from each other on the altar, and then they do this whole, like, they talk forever, and you're on your knees, And that hurts.
Yeah.
and you've got family on both sides, right? And mine was that way. I don't know how yours was.
I had family on both sides. And they're all dressed normal.
Yeah.
But you're dressed in the temple clothing.
Which is ugly.
And I remember I wanted to wear my dress, and I couldn't wear it because the sleeves came to here, which you can totally wear sleeves to here as a Mormon unless you're getting married or in the temple, and then the sleeve has to be to your wrist. So I had to wear like this weird thing.
With a veil.
This weird thing like under my dress so that like I had to wear sleeves under my dress that didn't match the fabric. Mm. And then I had to put all the temple clothes on top. So I've got like a sash and the fig leaf thing and the veil, and like you can't even see my dress.
You just feel frumpy and ugly.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't feel frumpy and ugly on your wedding day. Like that should be the day that you feel the most beautiful. Mm-hmm. But I actually did not wear my wedding dress. I wore like my temple dress because I was one of those where like, oh, every time I go to the temple and I'll put on my dress, it's like my real dress, and it'll like remind me of like
when we got married.
Aww. And so why did I have a temple dress or a wedding dress? I don't know, because I didn't really get married in it.
Because the temple dress is ugly. And you wanted a pretty dress for when you are not in the temple.
Yeah, take pictures.
Yeah.
So we can appear normal.
Yeah.
This is not what I got married in, but I look beautiful the way it is. Mine was cap sleeves too, though. I guess that was in when we got married.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, you have to have a sleeve, so.
I don't know. I have a lot of brides who do like the full sleeves now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of pinning garments too. And I'm like always stuffing garments back into their dress when I'm doing their photos, which is fun.
Yeah.
But, okay, so you do the sealing, which is not actually like a wedding, right?
And photographers aren't allowed inside the temple. I've even got in trouble, like, when the doors open for them to come out, they're like, the doors have to be closed before you can take a picture, because you can't shoot into the temple. And I'm like...
Which is so silly, because you can go into the temple, like, they have a waiting area. Mm-hmm. That's kind of silly. I've never had someone get mad at me for that.
Yeah. But I was like, wait, so I have to miss, like... That is the funnest part, is when they come out. That's the only time everyone can celebrate. Yeah. Even the people that weren't allowed in the temple. Which
and you could have loud laughter and much celebrating.
We've actually got in trouble for that, too.
That I have gotten trouble with. I'm like, let's silently celebrate.
Yeah.
More hands, less loud laughing. And
we should talk about, like, who can go into the temple. Only endowed members, which is usually you either have to have went on a mission, which for men is 18 years or older, and women is 19 years or older. Or if you don't go on a mission, you have had to have been married in the temple or got special permission to get your endowments. So anyone under 18, definitely not going into the temple.
Yeah.
Anyone who is struggling with their faith or not a member or is unworthy, none of them can go to your wedding either.
I guess you could lie. If you're a really good liar, you can get into the temple because you just have to answer the questions. But you do have to pay because you have to have your tithing.
And you have to pay 10% of your tithing.
Yeah.
Or 10% of your income for tithing.
I was thinking about this today because I was like, I am never going to be able to go to like my nieces and nephews' weddings if they get married in the temple. Like, I'm going to be the one that's outside babysitting all the kids, which sucks, but like, I don't know. It's just like I think it's an awful way to like divide families, especially when the church is like, oh, we bring families together and it's all about families are forever. You're forever if you follow all the rules.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It just was like making me kind of angry thinking about it because it was like...
Yeah. For my special day, I had all the adults. I wanted all my adults had recommends, but like my brothers and sister, they couldn't come into the temple. But for John, even people he wanted to invite, he there's so many people he couldn't. He only had like 5 people that he could invite to our wedding.
The list was shorter.
Because they were the only ones that were members or had a temple recommend.
Yeah.
So he had hardly anyone at our wedding.
I had a lot of people because I am like towards the youngest of 6 and my brother was on a mission and then all my siblings were there. So with their spouses and then all my aunts and uncles and on both sides. So
it might be interesting to note, missionaries do not get to come home to see any of their family get married. Like, there's no good reason to come home. I've heard, like, people have had, like, parents pass away and have stayed on their mission instead of come to the funeral.
That's so crazy. So crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and I was thinking about this today. Like, why... Okay, because you can't go through the temple as a woman unless you're going on a mission or getting married, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can't, like, there's, like, a time limit when you can go. Like, you can't, like, the minute you get engaged, go through the temple, right? It has to be, like, close to your wedding. I think it's, like, 2 or 3 weeks within the time that you're going to get married. Why? Like,
that is super interesting. Because if you think about it too long, you might freak out.
Like, it's just, like, it's, like, another, like... I don't know.
They do that too with the men too. Like, they can't get endowed until they're going straight into the mission field, where they can be further brainwashed that everything that they experienced was okay. Like, you either have to be going into a marriage that's going to pressure you to stay, or into a mission that's going to pressure you to stay.
But, like, if you think about, like, our age group, that's, like, 19 for boys, and then it was 21 for girls to go on a mission. So you're, like, waiting another 2 years, which goes to my theory that... Like, when you're dating, I don't, like, me personally, like, returned missionaries had this, like, they were on a platform. Like, they knew more. They knew more because they'd gone through the temple and they'd gone and, like, served the Lord for, like, 2 years. And so I just felt like I had no authority or anything to be, like, authority or knowledge. I just gave all my authority and knowledge to them because it was just like, you know more. And so I'm just going to... I wonder, that is something I wondered. It's just like, it goes back to like the patriarchy.
It does kind of perpetuate that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So, as a photographer, those are easy because...
There's nothing to shoot.
Yeah, like, tell them why it's harder to do a ceremony.
Okay, so when you, as a photographer, as a professional photographer, when you are hired by an LDS couple, which I charge them the same as I do a normal couple, but you get like them exiting the temple, and then you do the bridals, and then you do like all the family pictures around the temple, and that's like, and then you go to their reception that evening, which is boring, which we'll talk about. We'll get to that. So an all-day wedding, you have the getting ready photos, and then you could do like a first look where they see each other for the first time, maybe before the ceremony. A lot of brides don't necessarily want to do that. They want to like have their husband see them for the first time in all their glory as they're walking down the aisle. And ooh. I know, I love it. And then my favorite about like non-Mormon weddings are the vows, when they like exchange very personal vows. And I have a thought on that, like, that I want to share a little bit later, but they're always like, you have, I don't know, it just seems a lot more personal because you have like the dad or stepdad or grandpa or brother, like, that walks them down the aisle, and then they I mean, you still have the exchange of like, who presents this woman, but my feminist brain has issues with that. But I mean, it's a lot more personal. Bonding. It's a lot more about like the couple, and there's a lot more like verbiage about like, oh, you guys are getting married because you love each other, and these are promises that you're making to each other, and a lot less of. On my wedding, our sealer talked a lot about like faith, and went on and on. I can't even remember. Yeah, for like 20 minutes, just lecturing. It was a lecture. And that's why I call it like a sealing. It wasn't a ceremony. It was a lecture on you should keep faith, and these are all the things wrong with our country, our church, the world, whatever. And then like, okay, let's get down to business. You guys are sealed.
This is what I have a problem with funerals, weddings, like any big milestone in your life. The church is like, they interject themselves in there and make it kind of about them and less about the people. Exactly. And that bothers me.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, and then and then afterwards you get up and you like stand next to your altar, right? And you exchange drinks, and that's like that's your ceremony, right?
Yeah.
That's what they count as like marriage when you sign the marriage certificate. That's when you got married. It's not the sealing is what's important to Mormons. So, anyways, normal ceremony, and then you do like dinner afterwards.
This is the all day.
Yeah, all day. they'll do like a dinner afterwards, and all the guests that came to the wedding stay for the dinner, and then they stay for like a reception,
which is more of a party,
dancing and booze and loud laughter. I love that saying.
Like it's more of a celebration where like I almost feel like Mormon funerals are more like a viewing. Like,
Mormon weddings.
Let me just come and see the bride and groom.
You said funerals, Mormon funerals, and I think you had it because, like, if we think about Mormon funerals, you got the dead person, and everyone comes and views them, and then goes away. Mormon weddings, you got the couple, everyone comes and views them and goes away. Like,
it is pretty similar, and like again, like there's no celebration of the person, or less of it. It's not the same.
I hate to say it, but it's less happy. Like, it really is. And so everyone, not often will they have, like, people come to the reception who wasn't there for the wedding. When you have, like, a traditional
all-day wedding.
Yeah, when you have a traditional wedding, a reception isn't like, oh, everyone comes and, like, views. Sometimes you'll have that, especially in, like, this area that's very Mormon. But most traditional weddings, like...
They're at the wedding celebration with the people that were already there. Yeah. Let's go back to the thing that you wanted to talk about with the vows.
Okay, so I love vows. Like when the couple will get in front of everyone and talk about like why they fell in love, why they love each other, what they want to do with their life together, and what promises they make. Tears. Just like, I just love it because it's so personal. Yeah. And I remember, okay, so... I've been married 9 years, so of course my love has changed. Like, but I can remember back when we first fell in love, and nothing compares to that feeling. Like, you cannot get that feeling back because when you first fall in love with someone, like, it's just like, I don't know about you, it was just like a high. Like, I looked at him and I loved him so much, and I still do. Like, a lot of that hasn't faded away, but I would have loved to read
how you felt in that moment.
In my words, how I felt, and what promises in my words I was making to my husband. And now when I look back on my wedding, I'm in a mixed faith marriage. So I try not to like think, oh, we weren't really married. But in kind of in my mind, it feels that way. Yeah. Like, it feels like we didn't get a marriage. We got this like made up, stupid ceremony that had nothing to do with us or our love. And so I'm a little bitter about it. Like, and even if I try to like I know a lot of people when they leave the church will have like a vow renewal or like get remarried and kind of thing. And even if you did that, it's not the same. It's
not capturing where you were at the beginning. And that's it would be beautiful to capture where you are at now.
Yeah, especially if you've gone through that change together kind of thing. But yeah, and my husband, of course, doesn't view it that way.
He still sees it as valid. Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't.
A valid way to get married.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you see it as valid too, right?
Well, yeah. Like, I'm married.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very much married, and I'm very much committed to him. But I see it more as like, I made do you make promises? I can't even remember.
Well, you promised. Yeah, to follow him, but he promised to follow God, so...
Maybe we should pause and look at the actual word. Okay, so I know they did all those temple changes, was it 2 years ago? In 2018 or 19?
I don't remember.
They did all those temple changes, and so the sealing is different than it was when we got married.
When we got married, we promised ourselves to our husbands, and our husbands promised themselves to God. Yeah. Now, both... the husband and wife promise themselves to God. So they're still not promising themselves to each other.
I don't know. I actually haven't heard a lot about like how the sealing has changed because it's hard for ex-mos to get into that sealing.
Yeah, so we don't have much experience. If you guys feel like we got that wrong, just drop it down in the comments how it is.
But on my wedding day, I didn't pick up on the wording. I thought, oh, this is beautiful. Like, we're holding hands and we're promising each other. Like, that's how I thought. We were promising each other. Yeah. And that's not how it was. When I went through my faith crisis, I went and read the words of the temple.
And you realize...
it's polygamy! It all comes back to polygamy. I hate polygamy!
Yeah, where you gave yourself to him, but he left himself open to receive other people.
In the beginning of my faith crisis, I was, like, trying to make it work. Like, I was trying to figure out... how to look at like the temple in a better way that was more healthy when I looked at it, and I didn't hate it. And so I pointed out those words to my husband, who is fully active and believing. And we talked about it, and he, like, I was really upset. I was crying because I was like, because polygamy, even if it's in the next life, if it's delayed, is still polygamy.
It's still part of the Mormon doctrine.
Yeah. So I hate it when they say, like, we don't practice it now.
Or don't worry about it.
Yeah, because it is. Even if it's delayed, it's still there. It's still polygamy. And so, and honestly, my love for my husband, it was probably a huge start for my journey, my faith crisis. Because the idea, I was like, you're not supposed to, like, hate the idea of heaven. Like, that's something's wrong there. And so I printed these out, and I was bawling to him, and I was telling him, like, why I was upset and why it hurt so much. And he's like, I don't know why it's this way. And he's like, I give myself to you right now. And it was like, it was so beautiful. And honestly, that means more to me than my wedding day did.
Yeah. The day that he was like, okay, the temple didn't require me to give myself to you, but I would.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's really sad, because I should be looking back on my wedding day and feel like all these warm, glowy feelings. I mean, it was a beautiful day.
Yeah, I loved my wedding day.
Yeah, like, it was a beautiful day. I'm glad I got to see my family. We had a fun time. I mean, there was a lot of work poured into it, but it's not, for me, my temple wedding was not special. So I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, I feel like, I felt like the ceremony was important because that's when we committed, the moment that we committed to each other.
But did you say it in words, or was it just
But it was the commitment that we had expressed, not necessarily the ceremony that was present. And I think our most special moment was they were trying to set up our room, and so they put us somewhere else in the temple, and they're like, just stay here till we get everything organized. And in that room, we talked about how much we loved each other and how we were so happy to be here
the
together.
Photographers coming out. I mean, I love weddings so much.
And I think that was that moment in the temple when we were alone and the sealer wasn't there and our parents weren't there. It was more special to us.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not sure, like, I can't quite remember. I've gone through the temple twice with two different men, so I'm, like, trying to remember. But with my husband currently, because I was already endowed because of my previous marriage, he had to
pull you through the veil.
So,
because let me hurry just say, the Mormons believe that in the next life, or no, after death and after Christ comes, people will be resurrected, and our husbands are going to be the ones that pull us through. So the priesthood line will go down, and all the priesthood guys will pull each other out of the grave. Whatever that means.
I think it's that.
And then the men will pull the women.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to have a man to get into the celestial kingdom, because he's the one that pulls you through the veil. The veil is what covers you from remembering what happened.
Yeah. So they have a veil in the temple, like a curtain.
A literal
curtain.
Veil.
Yeah. And okay, so when you get your special underwear when you go through the temple, and it has marks, right? And then those marks are symbolized, they're cut out in the temple.
Also on the veil.
In the temple curtain, which is the veil. So as a husband, it is your duty to lead your wife into the next kingdom. Or in the next life.
When you go through the veil, it's symbolizing you going into the celestial kingdom. Yeah. And you need your patriarchal person to get you through. And you tell him your special name.
Because you get a secret name.
With a special handshake. And you have to remember your special name and your special handshake.
I forgot mine.
Don't worry, we'll look it up. Everyone who went, all you have to know is the day you got endowed, and then we'll figure it out.
That's all right. It's all made up anyways.
Just ask your husband. He remembers it.
I wonder if he does. I should ask him. It was something awful. And I told you, I think, because I was like, I think it's like Bertha, but it's not Bertha.
Yeah. You were just like, this is God's special name for me. I had the same reaction. I was like, God doesn't know me at all.
Yeah.
I do not want this special name.
But what I always find ironic, so you have this like curtain, right? And then usually when you go through the temple for like a normal endowment, you have this like old white guy on this side, and he's supposed to symbolize God. But when you go through and you tell your secret name to your husband, you've got your husband on this side, and he symbolizes
the God he will be. I don't know. Oh my word. Yeah. How come I never stopped to think about this?
There is no, well, I thought about it because I'm like, there is no godhood for women. Like, we are never God. It's not like I am a goddess now and I'm going to bring my children or my husband, or like, it's always man first, woman second in the temple, in Mormon life.
Yeah.
It's just, that's how it is. It's the patriarchy and it's horrible and I hate it.
Tell us how you really feel.
I can't remember my first wedding much, but with my second wedding, because I'd already been endowed, the day that we got married was the day that Dave found out my name. And so we had to go in early so he could pull me through the veil, learn my name. And then we sat in the room. What's that room called?
I'm not sure which room you sat in.
The celestial room. Is that what
it's
called? The celestial room.
So you and Dave are in the celestial room.
Yes. And we just, you just sit in the celestial room and you're holding hands and it's beautiful. And they have that like probably $50,000, $500,000 chandelier. I don't know. It's probably big. Like $1 million. Knowing them, they got to spend their money on something. So
how dare they have so much money and spend it on fancy chandeliers?
I don't know. Yeah. So we're just sitting there and holding hands, and of course, like you feel really good because you're about, it's your wedding day, and you feel beautiful, and you're there with your love, and so I definitely felt like the spirit then. Yeah. But I honestly think it's just because I was so happy to be being married, and so yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much my experience. And then getting your cancellation for your sealing is kind of a big process. Like, I'm just going to throw that out there. Like, when I got divorced from my first husband, but then I had to ask special permission to get sealed to Dave. And you have to, like, write a letter, and then you have to find a way to contact your ex-husband, wife's bishop, and they have to like talk to them, and then they have to write a letter, and then it gets sent to like the first presidency, and they have to read it. Yeah. Anyways, I have had a few friends who were kind of like in the same situation I was, but they had like a child or two, and they didn't get their clearing for like a year or two, and so they ended up just getting married civilly, and then getting sealed later, which is looked down upon.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. That would be a weird experience within Mormon culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have been to a few Mormon out of the temple weddings, and it always takes place. Always. I am trying to think of one that oh yeah, I have been to a few, but it usually always takes place in that god awful gym, orange basketball hoops.
They're hard to cover up. Yeah. So. And I've had a few experiences too it's still a Mormon wedding, but it hasn't taken place in the temple. And because it hasn't taken place in the temple, I think it's the worst type of wedding.
It's got like
out of all the three.
Umbrella of shame and guilt and what have you guys been doing?
Yeah. So if you've got three types of wedding: Mormon Temple Wedding, Mormon Church Wedding, and Not Mormon Wedding. I think Mormon Church Wedding is the worst wedding you can have.
Yeah, because it's just shame, shame, shame.
Yeah.
You guys obviously have had sex, and that is next to murder when it comes to believing Mormons, which I don't understand.
Yeah, so the most disturbing Mormon church wedding I ever went to was like a literal funeral. And it upset me so much. So they're young kids, and I'm assuming they had sex before marriage because she had a kid relatively close there.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. We get in there and like people are literally crying already before the ceremony starts.
Oh, that's so awful.
And then the guy that's getting married that day, he's standing up there, and she comes in. And the dad is bawling when he gives her, which is normal.
Yeah.
For the dad to get emotional when he gives his daughter away. But I was wondering, like, are you emotional because you love her so much, or are you emotional because you think she's damned?
Yeah, that is true.
Or that you're marrying her to an unrighteous person. And then the bishop that they had marry him, he gave them a whole lecture in front of all their loved people about how this was not a happy day. Oh, and their happy day had to be worked for, and that would come in the future. That this was just a step of repentance. Like, you have to get married first, and then you have to fix everything that you did, and then you can have your happy day in the future. And it's like,
it just makes me so
making
angry.
Everyone cry. And I didn't get it. I was like, what? Why can't we support them getting married? Like, we value marriage. We value, like, what did they want them to do? Just live in sin?
Yeah. Well, and it's
like,
as
believing Mormons, what was their alternative? To live in sin? Well, you would judge that a lot harder than what they did. And they're being super brave, having a church marriage, because everyone's already judging them.
Because that means they were actually honest about the fact that they had done things that were against... This just makes me so angry.
Yeah.
They were done things that were against what they were taught to do.
Even if it was beautiful, because they really loved each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
They didn't lie. I know at least 3 couples who lied and then got into the temple.
So that they wouldn't have to face the shame. And, you know, I don't even know if I can judge that, because after watching the shame that these guys went through, like,
no kidding.
Should you really have to subject yourself to the shame of your whole community to marry the person you love?
And honestly, you know what? If I had sex with my first husband before we got married, like, that relationship would have been over within a month for sure.
You could have avoided getting married.
Yeah, like, if we had just, like, moved in together and had sex and had, like, the normal, like, development of a relationship between a man and a woman, I would have never gotten married. Like, it would have been obvious that we were not compatible.
Yeah.
And then you're throwing these young people, 19, 20, 21-year-olds together. Mm-hmm. You're making all these vows. For eternity, you guys are going to love each other and stay together for eternity, when there's this idea that this is how they're going to be forever. Like, there's no, like, what if I change? What if, like, in 20 years I don't like this person? Or what if, like... I mean, when you're that young, like, there's so much growth. I can't even imagine, like, my 19-year-old me, the conversation I would have with her. It'd just be an entirely different person. And so I just think it's a silly idea that to get married so young, so fast, because Mormons get married fast. Short engagements, short courtships.
And then to think nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah. And just think this is how it's going to be for eternity.
Yeah.
I mean, I know many relationships, older relationships than me, where I'm just like, why are you guys together? But they stay together because of that temple. And it's, I don't know. It boggles me, because the idea of, like, disliking your spouse and then knowing that you're going to be with them for eternity, how is that heaven? How's
that a healthy relationship?
Yeah, and then that's what they want, is to be in heaven with this person that they honestly dislike.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is people who the relationship has went sour over time, and the only reason they stay is for their salvation, not because they're experiencing a loving, healthy relationship.
Yeah. Well, because, I mean, you grow up and we sing songs about the temple, and you look up to the temple, and you're going there someday, and it's going to be beautiful, and you're going to get married, and then you have this grandiose idea of, like, what your marriage and your temple and your life will look like, and with family and children, and then into eternity, where you become gods and goddesses, and you'll have worlds, and it's just this, like, beautiful idea that you are buying into on your wedding day. I just think it's unrealistic. Like,
yeah.
Like,
you know, I wanted to back up a little when we were talking about, like, the only reason they stay is for their salvation. Like, I still think it's okay to stay in a relationship when it gets hard. I just don't think your intention should be, I'm only staying for my salvation. Like, I think there should be other reasons that you're working through hard things, and just not like, well, I'm just going to tough it out in this life, and then it will be fixed in the next life.
Yeah.
Like, do things to fix it now if you're going to stay.
Yeah. Well, like I hear myself in it. I'm not promoting like, oh, things get hard or you don't just go your separate ways. Like marriage is like super important to me now. I just also see a lot of really unhealthy marriage examples in my life that are LDS.
Yeah. I just wanted people to think like there are good reasons to leave and there's good reasons to stay, and you have to like decide that.
But so I do remember when I was like 10, my cousin got married, and it was like right out of high school they were getting married. They'd been together for a few years, and obviously they'd had sex. And I just remember I was sitting there, and the bishop who was marrying them was talking about like, you are together for this life, and instead of like saying for eternity. And I remember that like hitting me, and like it was like a knife. Like I remember feeling that like
as a kid.
Yeah, like oh, that is so sad that they're just together for this life and they don't get each other for eternity. Yeah. And it was like a big ugh. And I look back at that now and I'm like, that is just so sad that like even at 10 I picked up on that. Like, this is a sad thing. This is not a happy thing. I have done a few, because of COVID, the temples have been shut down. And so I have done a few like LDS weddings this summer where they like, but the whole time, I think I've done 3. The whole time they talk about how they were worthy to go to the temple and they were ready and they had prepared themselves. And aren't these kids so good? Because even though the temple wasn't an option for them, they are still virgins. So they can get married in the temple if they wanted to. Yeah. But they like focus on that. They focus on their sexual...
And how it relates to the church's standards.
Yes.
Not how it relates to
like
them.
The Mormon weddings are so focused on sex. It's crazy. So they focus on how these 2 virgin kids have been so good and so righteous, and that they are prepared to go to the temple the minute it's open. And we are here because we are happy for them because they followed the rules. And so we are going to make this a happy day. And the bishop is saying this for their wedding ceremony. Like this, I don't know. It's just, it was like...
But they won't make that space for anyone else. Like, no one's love is valid unless it's done the right way. And if it's not done the right way, you can't have a valid marriage. You can't have a happy marriage. And that's sad. Like, why can't we allow people, like, even like fully believing people that mess up, like... Sorry, you weren't perfect. You can't be happy. And then, like, what about people who don't even believe? Yeah. Why can't we be happy for them? Yeah. We can't. It's There's crazy. No room in the religion for us to be happy for people that don't believe, or fully believing people who made a mistake, which isn't, I mean, now that we're out, it's like so you clear. Shared yourself intimately with the person you love, and it probably was beautiful, but we're going to shame you for it.
Yeah. Like it's, well, and now that I'm out, I can see that it's so focused on sex. Because like a normal traditional wedding, they will party all night with their friends. And it's not this like, oh, we're ending at 8 so we can go have sex. Because we
have to consummate this marriage, and everyone knows it, not just us.
Like it's this like sexual tension all day, or like, oh, we're not, you guys are doing a night. Whereas like a traditional wedding, they're just like, oh, we are here to party with our family and friends because we are a good couple together, and they love us and they're happy for us, and there wasn't like any expectation other than love with that wedding.
And let me tell you what's going to kill the mood and the desire and your first experience with sex, being the expectation that it has to be done that night. The pressure from your spouse, the pressure on yourself, and the pressure from everyone that you're with. Yeah. Like, everyone knows that tonight will be the first night that you can legitimately have sex.
Yeah. Well, and that's really hard too, especially for, here we go, TMI here. Like, for me as like a virgin bride, it was really hard to have sex for the first time. But there's like this expectation that has to happen that night because it's your wedding night and you guys have been waiting, and it's like, it's a lot of pressure. Yeah. But honestly, sex is like really hard for women sometimes
especially virgins that haven't been allowed to tap into their sexuality.
Yeah.
Like, it's been off limits for so long, and we're supposed to go from 0 to 100.
0 to
in
100.
one night.
Yeah.
Like,
and then just become these beautiful sex machines that just, like, know how to please their husbands, know how to do all these... Yeah, it's just crazy.
I mean, we're not even allowed to be in touch with our own sexuality. Like, we can't even, like, touch ourselves.
Yeah.
Or explore our bodies. It's not even valid without a man.
Well, and
Mormonism.
And I had this idea that it was disgusting. Like, sex was gross. It was bad. And so to have beautiful sex wasn't, like, something that I'd ever thought of. Or also, like, the only sex education like I got was just what came from, like, watching movies and stuff, which is not realistic either. Like, so it's just sad. I didn't grow up with that sex positive atmosphere at all, and it's like harmed me for years. I would say I'm not even past it now, and I've been married. I've had a lot of sex, so it's like, it's like something that gets drilled into your head that you can't get out of, and it's just really sad, in my opinion, that there is that sexual aspect to Mormon weddings that is just, I feel, really harmful. Yeah.
I think they need to talk about sex differently. It's just too harmful to be like, it's not good. It's not good unless you're married, and not like. Not letting yourself develop until then is just harmful. Anyway. Yes. Okay, so you guys, we have a lot more that we want to talk about weddings, but it's time. Our time's been cut. So until next time, keep your world great and spacious. I guess that's all I have to say. Let's say goodbye, Kendra. Let's sign off. Bye. This is not brought to you by McDonald's Cafe.
Stephanie's the boss.